Hey, Coffee Dude 65, it's Buddha Gem, and first, let me just preface this with an apology if you felt that my last video was condescending in tone towards you. That certainly wasn't the intent. I was asking you a sincere question about the efficacy of voting and what it would take for you to maybe get past that. But, again, my apologies. I watched your follow-up video, and I'd just like to touch on some of the things you said there. You said free-thinking individuals, people that believe in the Democratic Party's essential philosophy to come together and unite. And you pointed out it's not marching in lockstep. It's being united around a common cause, which, I can totally understand that. And I do that a lot of times in various work that I do. But the problem I have with that is you're rallying around these core ideals of the Democratic Party, which many of them I could find appealing. The problem I have is the difference in theory and practice. The Democratic Party, as you know, has many appealing aspects to its philosophy. The problem is that once these people get into power, those ideals are usually given no more than lip service. I gave examples in my past video about Clinton. The current incumbents are pretty much the same. We have no plan to end the war in Iraq, address the concerns of citizens, universal health care, Social Security, work, lowering wages. All the concerns that Americans have right now are not being addressed by any three of these candidates, particularly not the Democrats, who should be addressing these according to you and their platform. So, given this stark difference between practice and theory, where, the pro-labor, let's think about this. Is serious now. This isn't being condescending. But we have a pro-labor party, the most pro-labor party we have between the Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats passing NAFTA. Bill Clinton going out there selling it to the American people as some great thing. That's a reality, and it was completely destructive to the labor movement in this country. Completely destructive. American workers, after the passing of NAFTA, during organizing drives, would come into their shops and find labels saying "shipped to Mexico," sending a very clear message to those workers: you organize this shop, all this machinery is getting shipped to Mexico. You'll have no job. There will be no shop to organize. That's the actions of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, let's not forget, like I said, Bill Clinton established the doctrine of regime change in Iraq, which was followed up by the Bushes. Now, if these people were so diametrically opposed as they appear on paper, you couldn't have something like this happening. Because if that was the idea that we should change regimes in Iraq, well, if that was the Democratic idea, then the diametrically opposed Republican Party would say, well, we can't do that. We're diametrically opposed to whatever you're doing. The reality is they work closely together on numerous things. Clinton had no trouble picking up on the post-Cold War era programs of Bush Sr. Bush Jr. had no problems picking up on what Clinton was doing in affecting regime change in Iraq and doing all the things that he's done. So, and this isn't condescending, it's reality. If in reality these two diametrically opposed parties can work so closely together on issues, like war, like giving more and more power to corporations, and less oversight to public concerns, does it make any sense to unite around a common cause that really doesn't amount to anything in the real world? And you go on to admit the system's not perfect, but we have to work with the tools we have now for change, work within the system. And this is what I'm fundamentally arguing against. And you go on to say we have not made any changes that much in the past. We haven't made a lot of changes in the past. And again, I would fundamentally disagree with you. If we look back at the labor movement, I'm sure you enjoy an 8-hour workday, possibly, time off, vacation pay, maybe some kind of pension, 401k you mentioned. a safer workplace. All these things were fought and won by organized workers, not going to the ballot, not voting in the right candidate, but by organizing in their communities, their workplaces, and across industries to fight for these changes. Same can be said for the women's liberation, for civil rights, for environmental protections. None of these things were fought and won at the ballot box. They were fought and won out in the streets by organized communities. I mean, we had a guy, very, to use your, thing, diametrically opposed to democratic values, a Republican by the name of Richard Nixon, who passed the EPA, who was pro-affirmative action. Why was that? I mean, there's a reality to that, and it's because the population had so much pressure on the system from the outside, not from within, not voting, but from outside, pushing these things, that he had no choice. That we can steer these things from the outside, and we have done that. Oftentimes, I mean, most, universal suffrage for males didn't come about, till 1850s. Women, only recently got their vote. Blacks, even more recent. So a lot of these changes happened before people even had a right to vote. Now, I don't have a lot of time, but I agree that we need a dual approach, but my approach is different than yours in that I think we need a short-term approach. That is, we find the issues and the concerns locally and maybe globally that we can affect short-term, that give people something to rally around. But we also need a broader vision that speaks to long-range concerns and plans. So, for instance, the labor movement, while the long-range goal was maybe to abolish the wage system, shorter-term goals were to make workplaces safer, OSHA, shorter work hours, better pay, better compensation if you did get hurt at work, some unemployment insurance, all these things that we take for granted now. They were fought and won. People died for these rights. And they didn't die in some foreign land. They died right here in the United States. So I do believe we need a dual approach. I just don't agree with you that part of that approach is voting. And as far as give a plan, 2 minutes, I don't really have enough time to give you that plan. But you say, Crazy Cat Guy says, who would you point the guns at? Well, I don't think it's not that I'm against self-defense or using violence to further the goals. But the reality is that I think any successful revolution will not need violence. It will be done through civil disobedience. It will be done through peaceful means. Not because violence is not warranted, but simply because we don't have there's no way we can match the violence that could be meted out by the state. Simply, the equilibrium is just not there. And again, it's not about dropping out. It's about getting organized in your community with other people who are doing work right now. I don't know where you live, but these things are going on. It's not a matter of dropping out or voting. It's a matter of where do you spend your energy. And, if you just go down and vote for 5 minutes, like Chomsky said, I don't have a huge issue with that. We can get into whether or not that legitimizes the system or not. But people who spend months and months advocating, leafleting, pushing for a certain candidate in the system, those are the people I'd like to see pulled out of that and put into more effective, constructive work within their communities. Like I said, I don't have time to give you the plan, but the revolution, is real, and it doesn't need to be about guns. Running out of time, so I'm going to leave it at that. And again, I hope this wasn't condescending. It wasn't my intent, but I do appreciate the dialogue. Peace.